Please welcome to the stage CNN's Erica Hill and Sherrie Westin of Sesame Workshop.
This is such a treat to be here with everybody, and I'm so excited about this conversation. I have a feeling you all are as well, because I know Elmo is a very big draw.
Not me. I know that. I know that.
We know it, Sherrie. Sesame Street was really so revolutionary when it launched in 1969, and actually somewhat radical in the thinking that you could use television for education. Clearly, that bold idea succeeded. What do you think it was that allowed it to not only succeed, but continue to remain relevant now, 56 years later?
Well, to your point, it was a radical idea. You know, this was the late 60s. You know, could media be used to teach? And of course, the medium of the day was television, but there was research that showed that children in poverty were showing up at school without the skills they needed to learn. And Joan Gance Cooney, who's the creator and founder of Sesame, had this idea that, well, if children could learn jingles and beer commercials from watching television, couldn't they learn letters and numbers? And she, with support of the Carnegie Corporation, the Ford Foundation, and sort of the equivalent of the Department of Education at the time, she brought together researchers, educators, and creatives, and created the first educational children's show. It was also the first to focus on preschool, when they felt they'd have the sort of greatest chance to have a real impact. And then one of the other things I love, in answer to your question, that Joan had a hunch. She thought the learning would be deeper if an adult were watching with a child. So that's why there were celebrities and musicians and humor and parodies. It was very deliberately setting out to appeal to adults as well as children. So if you fast forward, we now have the research, the neuroscience. We know that the first 5 years of a child's life is the most important in their brain development. We know that the way a child learns is through engagement with a caring adult. And I think that there have been over 1,000 studies on the efficacy of Sesame Street showing that we have proven impact. So I think it's both what made us so effective and successful, but I also think that appeal to adults, appeal to all ages, is what has helped keep us so relevant, because you do have celebrities, musicians, we're in the cultural zeitgeist. And lastly, I would say, and I think equally importantly, is that we have always focused on real issues through the lens of a child, and the most pressing issues affecting children, which have changed over the years. And I think that is a huge part of remaining relevant, whether that's focusing on displaced children around the world, whether it's focused on parental addiction during the opioid crisis. I mean, as we see major issues affecting children, Sesame has a very unique way of addressing those issues in hopeful, direct ways and dealing with real life. And I think that's another reason we've remained so relevant.
Yeah, and it is remarkable, I think, how much the adults actually get out of it as well, which
Yes.
I know
Yes.
you know, but when you do watch it with a child and see it through their eyes, it's amazing the takeaway that the adults have as well, that it really is something for people of all ages. The way that Sesame Workshop has evolved, to your point, to keep meeting the needs of children and of families. I know one of the main focuses that you have in this moment is mental health.
Yes.
And emotional well-being. And there was, I mean, when we talk about the broad appeal of all ages, Elmo had this viral moment not too long ago that I think in many ways kind of stopped people in their tracks and was directly related to our mental health, our emotional well-being. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, that's another great example of addressing the pressing issues of the day. And after, you know, we focused 100% on COVID response. If ever there was a time using media to reach children with quality early learning, every single child needed that. So it speaks to the prescience of Joan and the creation of Sesame. But the pandemic only exacerbated the mental health crisis. And after the pandemic, even the American Academy of Pediatrics said that mental health was a crisis for young children. So we created a very comprehensive initiative to focus on emotional well-being, to help raise awareness about mental health to help people understand this is not just an adult issue, it does impact young children. And so part of our appeal is our ability to raise awareness of an issue for all ages. And Elmo did to this tweet where he asked a simple question, you know, how is everybody doing? And it became our most viral moment ever. Reaching, like immediately, it reached 200 million people with all sorts of responses that people weren't doing very well, and they were talking about it. We had responses from T-Pain to Dionne Warwick, you know, brands like Patagonia, and through all of that engagement, we ended up reaching over 300 million. But one of the great things was because it was tied to our initiative, we were able to then send people to resources and for resources for parents to help understand how to build that emotional well-being foundation in young children. And I think we had 17,000 downloads in the very first week. So it speaks to the power of media and Muppets, you know, to not only teach, but to be powerful role models and to really raise awareness of these critically important issues. But, you know, I was going to ask Elmo about it. I thought he would be here by now, but...
Elmo's here. Elmo's here. This is Elmo.
Hi, Elmo.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Hi, Miss Sherrie. Hi, Miss Erica. Elmo's sorry that he's late. Elmo was just looking for marshmallows, but he can't find any. There's none here.
Wait, so Elmo, why on earth are you looking for marshmallows, if I may ask?
Well, to make s'mores. Elmo was going to toast them in the fire for the fireside chat thing that you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, Elmo, you know, a fireside chat doesn't mean there's a fireplace. It's just what we call like a conversation like I'm having with Miss Erica.
So, it's a fireside chat with no fireside.
Right.
Yeah.
That means no s'mores?
Yeah, sorry.
No
Just lots of
s'mores.
talking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that must be a grown-up thing. Okay, but you know, Elmo does remember those messages, Miss Sherrie. Yeah, you know, Elmo's daddy read some of them to him, and a lot of people were having big feelings.
They sure were. A lot of people were saying they really needed a break.
Yeah, Elmo understands needing a break. You know, everybody needs a break sometimes. You know, sometimes you have a big feeling. Like when you're disappointed because you thought there might be s'mores at a thing, and then there aren't s'mores at a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's definitely a big feeling when you don't have the marshmallows. But I know, Elmo, that you have some different ways, some strategies even, that we can deal with some of those big feelings.
Oh, yeah, that's true, Miss Erica. Yeah, Elmo knows some great strategies. Let's see, there's belly breathing, or humming a song. Oh, or one of Elmo's favorites is be a tree.
Be a tree?
Yeah. You know, when Elmo needs to calm his body down, he learns to act like a tree. Oh, let's all try it together, okay? Elmo can show everybody.
Okay.
Okay, first you sit up really tall, like this. Yeah, come on, everybody. Imagine you're a big, strong tree. Feel your body in your seat, and imagine that roots are growing down deep into the ground. Okay, and sit up a little bit taller. Good posture, everybody, good posture, okay? Now, spread your arms out wide to grow some branches, but be careful. You don't want to poke anybody with your branches.
Don't poke your neighbor.
Yeah, Okay, keep stretching and take a slow, deep breath in through your nose like this. And slowly breathe out through your mouth. Yeah. How does everybody feel now?
I think I pulled a muscle,
Oh, you did?
but I do.
You have to be careful growing branches.
Okay.
Elmo, I do feel a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It helps Elmo too.
Yes. Elmo, thank you for sharing your technique with us.
Oh, you got it, Miss Sherrie. Oh, and thanks for being a tree, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Bye,
You know
Elmo.
what? You know what? Elmo's got to say it. That was better than having s'mores.
Oh, wow.
It's true. Yeah, but Elmo has to get back to Sesame Street because Elmo's still hungry because he didn't have the s'mores. Okay, so Elmo, we'll see you later. Bye, Miss Sherrie. Bye, Miss Erica. Bye, everybody.
Elmo.
Thank you.
The power of Elmo, and now we all have a new tool, which is very important. It is remarkable in a world that feels more divided sometimes by the day. How is Sesame addressing those realities in terms of not just the division, but also the opportunity that exists there to support children, to support families?
Well, listen, I do feel like children are growing up in a world that does feel more divided than ever. And, yet Sesame has, fostering understanding and respect for others has always been at the heart of what we do. And I will say that the next season, our curriculum is around community, kindness, and compassion. So in child development speak, we would call that developing a compassionate mindset, which basically means helping children see themselves and others, with kindness, with understanding, with non-judgment. And the thing is, we know it works. With Sesame, research is baked into everything we do. It's a huge part, both formative, summative. And the research we just got back on the last season is so encouraging because it showed children increasing sharing, cooperation, decrease in unprovoked aggression in daycare centers after watching Sesame Street, increase in emotional skills. And I remember one teacher commenting that after in the centers in the daycare where they watched the episodes, that she really noticed that those young students were actually talking more about their feelings rather than just getting angry. Wow. And again, I think it's the power of our Muppets as these powerful role models.
And those skills, I mean, you touched on this, but everything that the Sesame Workshop does, there's so much data behind it. It's not just we have a great idea, we're going to run with it. I mean, you have so much to support what we see. And the fact that the kids have this engagement, they can also bring that home with them and then share that with their siblings, with their parents. To your earlier point about this really touches the whole family.
Absolutely. I mean, children can be a catalyst for older siblings, for parents. And listen, the exciting thing about this right now is because we know it works, we think this is the most important topic that children and adults could learn from. And we're going to be able to reach more children and families than ever before because of our new partnership with Netflix and through PBS and through YouTube. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, it is. And compassion, you said it's compassion, kindness, community.
Yes.
I mean, what a beautiful season that we are moving into.
I think this could be helpful, don't you?
I'm going to watch, personally.
Yeah.
My kids are way past that age.
We could show it at the UN. I don't know, just, yeah.
It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. In this world that also feels a lot more complex, I think for children, for adults as well, but it feels much more complex in terms of what's being thrown at kids and what I think for their parents too, wondering what their lives will look like. We have AI, we have all of these new emerging technologies, and then we have other events, extreme weather events. There's a lot more that kids actually have to deal with, and I know that's something as well that you're leaning into in terms of these big moments and big events and how that impacts a child.
Well, it's true. I mean, children are growing up in a world that is, a digital world, like it or not, and AI powered. And the most important thing in that is for us to make sure that we're prioritizing their digital well-being. And by that, I mean having healthy relationships with media, with digital, giving parents the tools, the knowledge to make sure that from an early age, they're building a healthy foundation, that they're using those tools with intention. And that's something that we're really focused on. There are, lots of opportunities. There are things that can be very exciting with AI. There's individualized learning, and that can be in real time, and particularly for children with developmental issues, that's really positive. There's the opportunity to sort of bridge divides by translation. All sorts of things that are exciting opportunities. But as children develop relationships, it's so important that when we're using those tools, which can be catalysts for curiosity and learning, that they're not replacing that human engagement. As I said earlier, children learn from engagement with a caring adult. That's how their brain develops synapses. That is critical. But again, to have the tools to understand where those can be real opportunities to enhance that learning without the risk associated. And one of the things we're focused on is looking at those risks. How can we make a difference? Sesame has an independent research lab called the Joan Gans Cooney Center, and that was designed to help be a catalyst for tech, for creators, for tech companies, to sort of make sure that children are not an afterthought Because so often with new technologies, they're not created with children in mind, but children are always going to end up there. So it's being much more child-centered in the research and development around these tools, in, again, being a catalyst for others to please step up and make sure they're thinking about children's well-being. Another exciting thing we're doing is we have a partnership with Google.org, and that's to create resources for digital well-being. So it will be tools for parents, again, with strategies, with foundations, with knowledge on how at an early age to start to approach how you're using media and digital tools with children, what should be intentional, what should be avoided. And I know as a parent, I would find that enormously valuable. So that's something we're doing, which I'm also excited about.
Which is really focused on the future too. So it's not just, it's embracing the technology that's here, but also thinking about how is it going to continue to be used? How are the kids learning about it at this age, hopefully with an adult? So 10, 20 years into
Absolutely.
the future, you're still maximizing the opportunity.
Well, and it's not going away. So, you know, as I said, children are growing up in a digital age, whether you like it or not. It's important that we have the tools and that we're helping parents and that we're doing everything we can to make it a positive experience for children. The other thing is so important is to be teaching critical thinking skills. That's what children need more than anything else growing up in an AI world. And that's a huge part of our focus. You mentioned nature too. And part of this is, you know, it can't be all about technology. We are doing a whole program, a global program on nature because we want to encourage children to get outside. You know, there's all sorts of research that show that when children are in nature, it improves their resilience, it increases their emotional well-being, it sparks curiosity and hands-on learning. And we also want to tap into children's sort of natural affinity for nature to help empower them to be stewards, to take care of their environment, to understand how important that is. And, you know, as you said, extreme weather is not going away. Sadly, I think that's only going to increase in terms of the instances. And who is most affected? Of course, it's young children. They're the most vulnerable, they're the most impacted, and will continue to be. So part of our nature curriculum is also focused on helping in terms of extreme weather, preparing children, giving them the coping skills, the understanding, and focusing on community preparedness, community response. And again, I would say this is one other example of looking at the world around us. What are those issues affecting young children? And even when they're difficult, tough issues, how can Sesame help play a role in a hopeful, positive way that addresses those real life issues and gives children and families the tools and resources to address those.
And I would say this is something for so many of us grew up watching Sesame Street, maybe watched it with our children. It wasn't until probably 15 years ago that I realized the extent of the work that Sesame Workshop does that you don't see on your television. And it's all of these moments and all of these tough topics, but the amount of resources that you make available. I mean, back in the day, I remember a DVD and maybe having a conversation. I think we were in DC talking about food insecurity and how that was a difficult topic at the time to discuss. A deployed parent, grief, and how Sesame has consistently tackled this. And you talk about the resources, the wide number of resources that are available for parents, for families, and for educators.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, when we talk about the origins of Sesame Street, and people often think of it as this iconic domestic television show, but they don't realize, here we are 56 years later, we're in like 190 countries. It's a global. In many of those countries, it's local productions of Sesame Street. You know, designed to meet the needs of those children, reflecting their culture, their language, even Muppets that some you would recognize, some you wouldn't. But it's also all forms of media. You know, it's no longer just television. We have to be wherever children are. So that's, you know, digital platforms, YouTube, WhatsApp, you know, all sorts of innovative ways, especially to reach children who don't have access to quality early learning. And again, many of these programs are not just the Sesame Street television show. They're resources that are targeted for those audiences around those issues where you may need a parent to be present in dealing with those issues. You just wouldn't put it just on the show. And that's, I think, where in many places we can have the greatest impact.
Yeah. And the impact is, I mean, I noticed it with this audience. We worked together on a number of specials during
Yes,
COVID,
yes.
and I was struck by the reaction oftentimes from adults that they have to one of the Muppets or that they have to the show. They have there's a feeling that we get when you see it, but it is amazing how it can, without even needing to be a tree or do deep belly breathing, how it can relax people to see what is a familiar, comfortable, safe character who they trust, and that's more important than ever.
Well, I do think the multi-generational appeal, I don't know any other children's brand that has the appeal to all ages. And again, how that is so powerful for us when we're trying to raise awareness of an issue, and you know that you can, like Elmo did, reach all of those adults. Children are not on X, right? Those are times where we're trying to reach fans and adults to raise awareness, to destigmatize. And you know, I just think that it's one of Sesame's great power. We were doing a photo op back before we started for a number of the Concordia staff. I hope that's okay for me to share. And like several were in tears. And they were the adults, not the children. So I do think it's the power of Muppets and people's relationship with them over the years, which is really so powerful. And I see that all over the world. I hear stories about people that learned English watching Sesame, who immigrated to the US, stories around the world of what Sesame meant to them, and it's so rewarding. And you know, I do think the world needs Sesame more than ever, so it's a privilege to do this work.
I would agree. It is a really powerful moment when you see, I was seeing all those videos being made with Elmo, and I was eavesdropping and listening to some people saying, I have kids in college, can you say this to my children in college? I just sent a kid to college, and I told him I was with Elmo this morning, and he said, say hi to Elmo for me. So it is amazing how it endures and the joy that you see on people's faces. I also, you know, you touched on this briefly, but the fact that the Sesame that we see around the world that is specific to each community, and why that is so important. It's also, and this started from the very beginning on Sesame Street, is kids, no matter where they are in the world, but being able to look at the television and see the Muppets, but also people who look like them. The fact that Sesame Street was always a diverse cast of characters, which showcased the diversity of the United States, and then now showcases around the world so that a child can turn on the TV and see themselves.
Well, absolutely, and also the fact that Elmo's a little red monster means that a child can identify with Elmo anywhere, right? He's 3.5, and I think one of the reasons that young children gravitate to Elmo so early is because he's 3.5. He's the youngest Muppet, and I think they can relate to him the earliest. But also, I do think, to your point, helping children see themselves in a positive light was the first multiracial cast. So many people have said to me, it's the first place I saw a child who looked like me on children's television. And just the fact that our storylines it's all designed for a child to relate, and because there's a curriculum, there's a goal there in what we're trying to impart. And I think it is just one of the most effective ways for both adults and children to learn some really valuable lessons.
Yeah, and it's been a community. I know the focus this season is community, but it's been a community since day one. I mean, I think of, I smile when I think about that, but I think of Mr. Roper, not Mr. Roper, but I think of Mr. Hooper and his store, and how that also showcased that a community can be and a family can be whatever it is in your community. Maybe it isn't your grandparents and your parents who are there. Maybe it's Mr. Hooper, who is that important adult in your life, in your community.
Well, and I don't know how many are old enough to remember, but when Mr. Hooper, the actor who played Mr. Hooper, was on Sesame Street in early days, and he died unexpectedly. And you know, I think a lot of shows would have recast Mr. Hooper, but Sesame Street chose instead to do a whole special episode of Sesame where they explained to Big Bird that Mr. Hooper is not coming back, that he died. And to deal with real life issues, to help children understand death and grief and loss is so true to Sesame and very powerful.
Yeah, it's great. We are just about out of time. Is there one thing that you're most excited about in this season coming up?
Listen,
I'm on the spot, sorry.
No. I'm always so excited that we're back in production. Well, we will be in the new year, but we have a new season coming out November 10th. That's on the anniversary of Sesame. It will be on Netflix. It will be reaching as I said, more children than ever before. And I'm just so excited. It's been a tough year in some ways for a lot of organizations, and Sesame's not immune to that. So I'm just so proud of where we are, and that we will be there addressing, again, what I think are the most important issues of today, of helping children understand kindness, compassion, non-judgmental. I just think it's going to be a very powerful new season of community, and that it's really timely.
Yeah, it's great. Sherrie, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
He's coming back.
and what a treat that we had Elmo earlier too. It was great that he was available today. Oh,
Hi.
hey Elmo, you're back.
Hi, sorry. Miss Sherrie,
Yeah?
are you sure there's no marshmallows around?
No, I'm really sorry. There's no
Checking one
marshmallows.
last time.
No marshmallows.
Elmo doesn't know how he's gonna break this to Cookie Monster. Okay, but Elmo will. Elmo will tell him. Thank you, everybody. See you later. Elmo loves you.
Thank you,
Cookie Monster, they
Elmo.
don't have him. They don't have him.
Okay. Thank you all.